Hello students and other viewers. This is a Teta television from Morogoro. My name is Mnewa. I'm here again to present a topic known as talking about events. That is the topic that we're going to make a focus upon. The subtopics are narrating what took place in a given celebration. And the specific objectives of this topic are, by the end of this topic, students, as a student, you should be able to talk about celebrations. You should be able to talk about accidents. You have to be able to talk about elections. And you have to be able to talk about sports. And lastly, we have to be able to talk about visits. Now to start with, we are going to start with talking about celebrations. What is a celebration? I think, my dear students, you all know what it means by the term celebration. Now, we are going to narrate what took place in a given celebration. And when we talk about an event, you have to know what took place in the event. When we talk about an event like a celebration, you have to know what took place in the event. You have to analyze the event. The events normally took place either they can take place at home, they can take place in your street, they can take place in your school, or sometimes they can take place at a national level. So the events might be a celebration, is how I introduce it. Celebrations, it can be an event of an accident, it can be an event of election. As you know, this year we have the general election, so that is an event. Or it can be an event of sports, match or game. So when talking about events, it's better for you as a student to take note of the following important information. The first one, you have to note the place where the event took place. I think you have the memory you have the memory of the term known as setting, the place where the event takes place. So that is very important to know before analyzing the event itself. The place where the event took place. But also you have to know the date and time of an event. The date and time of an event is very important. And you have to analyze the participants of that particular event. For example, if the event involves the head of state, that is the president, or the vice president, or it involves teachers, if it's the school, it's the school surrounding, or it involves students, and even other people. Therefore, important information, things which took place, that is also another important thing to observe when analyzing events. Important information and things which took place. For example, if the event involved awards, provision of awards, you all know during the graduation ceremony, there are awards which can be given to the graduates. But also, it can be songs. Maybe the event involves listening to songs. Or it can be a sad event like that of deaths, or winners, or losers, etc. Now, the first event that we're going to focus upon is talking about a graduation day ceremony at school. I think this is very common to most of us. We have at one given time celebrated, if not our graduation, then it might be the graduation of our sisters and brothers. So it's obvious that you have an image of what a graduation ceremony is, how it looks like. And we are going to share together this story. It's an extract, or it's a story about a graduation day ceremony at a certain school in Morogoro municipality. It is taught to us by a student known as Kayuki. So it begins. My name is Kayuki, and I'm a Form 2 student at Bungodimwe Secondary School in Morogoro municipality. On the 24th of July, there was a Form 4 graduation ceremony at our school. The ceremony started early at 8 o'clock a.m. The school bell rang and all students gathered at the assembly ground. After that, the teacher on duty gave us class leaders the event timetable and told all of us to go to the assembly hall and sit as we were arranged the day before. At 9 o'clock a.m., teachers entered in the assembly hall and all students and parents who came earlier stood to show respect. The head of school then entered with the guest of honor, the Morogoro Regional Education Officer, Engineer Joyce Baravuga. After the entrance, all students, teachers and others sat down. The head of school introduced the guest of honor to the audience, then introduced teachers and the audience to the guest of honor. After the introductions, there was a short speech from the head of school welcoming all to the event. After this, Form 2 and Form 4 students sang farewell songs. A speech from a Form 4 headgear followed, after which there was a speech from the school head and a closing speech by the guest of honor, Engineer Baravuga. After the speech, the guest of honor handed out leaving certificates to Form 4 students and awards the best students of the year from Form 1 to Form 4, and I was among them. I received a gift of 500,000 shillings as the best Form 2 student and the reading in 7 subjects. I was so happy and surprised by the money, which I'm planning to use to buy review books for my Form 2 national examinations. After the awards, all students and parents went to the dining hall for lunch at 3 o'clock p.m. The guest of honor and the remaining staff had lunch in the teacher's staff room. At 5:30 p.m., the graduation ceremony was over. My dear students, I think we have heard that event. It is a graduation ceremony which took place in one of the secondary schools in Morogoro municipality, that is Bungodimwe. Actually, this is a creative work. I've just created the story in order to show the graduation ceremony event. Now, having heard the story about the graduation ceremony event, you have to stay in a position now to answer the questions resulting from the comprehension that you have read. And these are the questions that you can take time to think about them, reflect what you have heard from the story, and then you have to answer the questions, the comprehension questions. Question number 1. What's the date of the event? What is the date of the event? Dear students, do you remember the date of the event? I hope you listened carefully when I was reading the event, the graduation ceremony event at Bungodimwe. What was the date of the event? The second question, who was the guest of honor? Who was the guest of honor? Take time to ponder the question and come out with the correct answer. Who was the guest of honor? Question number 3. What was the aim of the event? What was the aim of the event? why was the graduation ceremony conducted? Hope you know, because you heard from the story, and in a common way, you know why the graduation is normally conducted at school. What was the aim of the event? Question number 4. What was the name of the school which Kayuki is studying? What was the name of the school which Kayuki is studying? Can you remember the name of the school where Kayuki was studying? One of the secondary school in Morogoro Municipal. What was the name of the school which Kayuki is studying? Question number 5. What is Kayuki planning to do with the money? What is Kayuki planning to do with the money? My dear students and other viewers, I hope you had a good time to think the correct answers for the given questions. And as far as we learned in the previous lesson, we learned about listening skill, how to listen carefully and comprehend the comprehensions that can be ready to you. I'm sure that you stood a better position to answer the questions on the screen correctly. And this is what I expected from you. Now, having gone through the comprehension, which was about narrating a story about the graduation ceremony at Bungodimwe, let us now have a look to another event. That was the happy event, and now we are going to have a look to a sad event. It's about an accident. When we talk about accidents, we are not talking about something that is exciting. It is something that makes someone, to feel sympathy. You can have that sympathy, because it involves death sometimes, or people being injured. The previous event was the happy event because it's like the event where we have to say our farewell to our brothers and sisters. So it is a happy event, not a sad event. Though sometimes we can say, oh, our brothers and sisters are leaving, so we cannot be happy. But actually it's a happy event because it does not involve deaths or accidents like the one which you are going to read right now. So we are going to talk about accidents. What is an accident, my dear students and other viewers? What's an accident? I hope at one given time you have ever come across accidents on the roads, or sometimes you can just fall on the ground. That is also one of the accidents. Or anything that can harm somebody, or anything that can harm even you. If it happens that you fall from the tree, that is an accident because you will be injured. You will feel that pain. Pain will be inflicted on your body. So anything that can cause damage to a human body, be it a car accident, be it being knocked down by the car, or drowning in water, and so on and so forth, those can be termed to be accidents. So the term accident is very, very broad. Now let's talk about accidents now. And the narrative that you're going to see soon, it will be a personal narrative. That is a narrative given out by a man. A narrative given out by a man. He was involved in the accident, is the character, a personal narrative. And actually, we are going to focus on the car accident, which is very common. We always witness car accidents on our roads. It has become to be a rampant disease. It's a very common event. Reckless drivers always cause this kind of accidents. Now, we have the car accident narrated by someone who was involved in a very bad accident, and this is the story about the car accident. Disappointment, disbelief, and fear filled my mind as I lay on my side, sandwiched between the cold, soft dirt and the hot, seatmate of the car. The weight of the car pressed down on the lower half of my body with monstrous force. It did not hurt. My body was numb. All I could feel was the car hose mass stamping my body further and further into the ground. My lungs felt pinched shut, and air would neither enter nor escape them. My mind was buzzing. What had just happened? In the distance, on that car's road, I saw cars driving by, completely unaware of what happened, how I felt. I tried to yell, but my voice was unheard. All I could do was wait. Wait for someone to help me or wait to die. The third maddening buzz of my alarm woke me as I groggily slid out of bed to the shower. It was the start of another routine morning, or so I thought. I took a shower, quarreled with my sister over which clothes she should wear for that day, and finished getting myself ready. All of this took a little longer than usual. Not a surprise, so we were running late. We hopped into the interior of my sleek, white Thunderbird and made our way to school. With music blasting, voices singing and talking, it was another typical ride to school with my sister. Because of a belated departure, I went fast, too fast. We started down the first road to our destination. This road is about 3 miles long and filled with retro hills. As we blocked the top of one of the small, blind hills in the middle of the right lane was a dead deer. Without any thought, purely by instinct, I put the wheel of the car to the left and back over to the right. No big deal, but I was going fast. The car swerved back to the left, to the right, to the left. Each time, I could feel the car scratching the earth with its side. My body jolted with the sporadic movements of the car. The car swerved to the right for the last time. With my eyes sealed tight, I could feel my body float off the seat of the car. I opened my eyes to see the black road in the distance above me. I could feel the cold ground on the side of my body. I couldn't move and couldn't understand why. It had happened so quickly. I lay there until my mind comprehended what had happened. I was wedged between the hood of the car and the dirt. The car rustled. Every movement of the car pierced my body. It was my sister. She was okay. I could see her slowly claw out of the back seat window, then tear away. I opened my mouth to yell her name, but air failed to escape my lips. Gasping like a fish out of water, I dreamed lie there until someone would help. My sister and I were sent to St. Thomas Hospital at Kilakala. My sister was alright. She had stitches in her eye, head, and elbow. I was relieved that she was not severely injured. I don't know what I would have done if something extremely bad had happened to her. I was sent to Morogoro Referral Hospital, where I went under surgery that same night around midnight. A plate was put on my hip bones to help them stay together. I was in the hospital for 6 days and in a wheelchair for around 8 weeks. I have now realized how precious life really is and that it can be taken away in a single minute. This is even easier when you are driving a car. I'm glad that my sister is alright and that I lived. I'll never forget that moment when I was lying on the ground, disappointment flooding my mind, waiting. My dear students and other viewers, I think we have heard this sad event of an accident which happened, and we have the personal narrative of someone who was involved in this accident. And I think we have heard some of the localities or some of the places which you know them, like Kilakara, St. Thomas Hospital. This is a creative work. I created a story. It's an event which is created. It's the work of literature, creativity. Now this is a picture showing a car accident. This is a picture showing the car accident. You know, you can see the two vehicles have crashed. And I think this was one of the bad accidents, as you can see. This is how, for example, from this picture, you can compose, you can write down an essay explaining the event which took place here. I think you can see it on the screen. You have people gathered there discussing, and you have the two cars which are badly damaged. And you can see other people standing there watching the event. So this is, when you talk about event, accident event, it looks like this. I think you have the picture of how the event of accident can be seen. It is really a very sad event, and there's no one who can be excited with the issue of accident, you know. It's obvious that all of us will be sad when we come across accident, be it the car accident or motorbike accident or whatever, because it involves injuries, it involves death of people. It's how we have heard from the narrative, the previous narrative. So as usual, you can ask yourself, have I really comprehended what I heard from this story? Can I really know or answer the questions resulting from the comprehension? So that is very important for you. As far as you already know how to answer the comprehension questions, I'm sure whatever, any kind of question that you can ask concerning the story that we have read, you can stand in a good position to answer the questions correctly. Now let us have a look to another event. Let us have a look to another event. We started with the event of graduation. The graduation ceremony, it is something that makes someone to be happy, you know, because it is an event which involves, you know, people are being given certificates, people are going to complete their studies, so they're excited. So it is a happiness. It is an event which involves happiness. It's an event which involves happiness. Now the second event was about talking about an accident, which is the sad event. It's not a happy event. And I think when I was reading the passage, most of you were sad. You know, the way the story is narrated, you can just draw the picture of how sad it is for someone being involved in an accident. And now we are moving to another event, because we are talking about events. We are talking about events, and this event is about talking about elections. Talking about elections. And actually, I'm sure that you're going to listen very carefully to this event of election, because this vocabulary election, it is something that is going to dominate few months to come. When the campaigns will start for the general election, hope you understand what takes place during the election period. And the event that we're going to talk about, the election, the type of election that we're going to talk about, is not very different from other elections. It is the election which will be conducted at school. You know, when we choose our leaders at school, the head prefects, the assistant head prefects, and other prefects, we normally conduct election, and they can campaign, and people can vote for them. It's just the same like the general election, which will be held in October. Now, and I'm going to read for you the event of erection which took place in a certain school. And the school also is found in Morogoro, just the same as how the previous story was about a school which is found in Morogoro, Bungodimwe. And now we are moving to another school within Morogoro municipality. November was always a busy month at Mji Mpya Secondary School. Students' council campaigns were at its peak, and the most desired positions were that of a head girl and a head boy. The positions came with respect and status. Our school was one of the best performing schools in the region. Its school leadership comprised of dedicated teachers and hard-working prefects. To be among the administration list, you have to prove yourself worth the position. The head of school always says, respect is earned. She believes in every student's ability to do the right thing and is known by her principles and believes against unnecessary disciplinary actions. She often says, punishment should always come as a final option. In Mji Mpya school community, regardless of your age or class, if you do not live up to your status, you will definitely lose your place in the board of students, social activities, crafts, preparations, time, group membership, and many other privileges that come along with good conduct and well manners. This year, the candidates for head girl and head boy had to be measured in their school performance, since they were both very competitive. The headmistress suggested they should sit for the midterm exams first, and the ones with better results will be allowed to campaign for the positions. The winner will represent the school's pride and honor, the headmistress added. The most discussed team was the head boy's position. Mkude was in Form 3, a hard-working student. He was contesting for head boy position against Maparagulile, who was not much of a talker but seems to have won everyone's heart. This rare disturbed Mkude. He thought of a smart way to get Maparagulile off the candidates. His conniving mind thought that if Maparagulile fails, it will be great. During the examinations, Mkude sat next to Ngoto, a candidate who did not care Mkude that much. Ngoto was one of those students who did very poor in his academics, but had all the good qualities of a good leader. Mkude took that for his personal advantage and decided to help Ngoto pass his examination in order to pull down Maparagulile. The examination time was around, and Mkude did all he could to be friendly to Ngoto. This made Ngoto uncomfortable, but once Mkude narrated his reasons, Ngoto took this as a sign of weakness on Mkude. How can he be a leader with such a bad character? Ngoto thought. They did the examinations, and Ngoto sat next to Mkude as they had planned. The results came out, and Mkude happened to have failed. Ngoto and Maparagulile were the nominees. Mkude did not like this at all. How can my luck change all of a sudden? He kept wondering. He wished to ban Ngoto, but if he did, everyone would have known his wicked plans and he would be condemned. He wished he had a way to cling to candidates, but how? He lost ideas on how his honor be restored. He kept thinking, Can Ngoto be convinced to refrain from the race? Campaigns started and Ngoto took the stage. He looked at Mkude and said, "Before you elect your head boy, I want to be the first one to congratulate Makwaragulire for coming this far. I would like to ask you all to cast votes for yes for Makwaragulire. I know my name appears there as a fellow contestant, but today I beg you all to adopt Makwaragulire as a single contestant. If you refute this, then at least allow Mkude to explain my deepest concern in a much better language that you can all understand." Then he sat down and Mkude was ushered to the stage. He was almost fainting. He knew this was a setup, but he appreciated Ngoto's courage. The only thing he had to do is to speak in favor of Makwaragulire. My fellow students, we all know how much I wanted to be a head boy, but all don't know how unworthy of this position I and Ngoto are. Please let this water pass under the bridge and allow the genuine winner to lead us all. I believe respect is earned, and Makwaragulire has earned this. The whole school was in shock, but it was all clear Makwaragulire had won the respect of his opponents. My dear students, I think you enjoyed the story about elections at Untitled Secondary School. It was a very nice story, and I hope you have comprehended it. Like the previous stories that we have so far read, we are going to have an activity. We are going to have an activity that we have to do it. Activity number 1. This is the first activity that I need you to do. As you can see on the screen, imagine you are the headmaster or headmistress of Untitled Secondary School. You want to conduct the school election for the school prefects. Make a short speech on how you want your readers to be, what characteristics they should have in order to be elected. Make imagination that you are the headmaster or headmistress of Untitled Secondary School. So prepare a speech. I think you know we have read the speech, how you can and therefore you can stay in the position to prepare a speech. Just make imagination, standing at the parade ground and announcing the criteria that we have to use to choose those ones who are contesting for the head boy and head girl positions. You can have your own conditions that you can air out to your students, and for someone who can meet those conditions is the one who will be chosen to contest for the election. So make imagination. Imagine you are the headmaster or headmistress of Untitled Secondary School, and you want to conduct the school election for the school prefects. Make a short speech on how you want your readers to be. Use the criteria that you need a reader to possess before being elected or before entering the contest. And you have to mention the characteristics they should have in order for them to be elected by their fellow students. The second part of this activity is this one here. Think of the election conducted at your school. Think of the election conducted at your school. Write a composition to explain what took place on the election day. I'm sure that in our schools, elections are being conducted. And therefore, what we're supposed to do here, you have to imagine, try to do imagination of how the election was conducted at your respective school. And you can include all the events which happened during the campaign and during the casting of the ballot or during the voting process. Okay, so I'm sure also you can be able to write a composition that will be explaining what took place during the election day at your school. If you're from any school, Mafiga, Kilakala, Mji Mpya, I think you know these schools are found in Morogoro municipality. So you can explain in the form of composition. Write a composition that will contain all important information or important events which happened during the election day. My dear students, I hope you can be able to answer the first activity. It has to do with hard working a little bit. You have to know how to write down a speech, a short speech. A short speech. I think this is prompt speech. Write down, or you can just write down somewhere, and then you can try to recite it or to read that speech. You can read it, get to know it, and then you can just speak it out without reading. Make it like the oral presentation. You know, we all know how teachers can stand at the parade ground and announce different announcements, including the head of school. And for the second part of the question, or the second part of the activity, it has to do with imagination. Though it's not really imagination, because elections are being conducted in your schools. So you write something that is real, what happened during the election day at your school. You start narrating narrative compositions, okay? You remember that? Narrative compositions. The compositions which involve narratives. You narrate. How did it happen? What happened? Who are the contestants? You see? I hope you understand. Good. Now, having gone through this first activity, we have the second activity. The second activity is about the comprehension questions. We have already gone through 3 events. We have already gone through 3 events, and the last event was the election event, which is the, you know, as I pointed out earlier, it is a hard event which involves, you know, people campaigning, shouting, and so on. Now, if you really comprehended, if you really understood the story, now you'll be able to answer the questions, the comprehension questions. That is activity number 2. Question number 1. Why do you think Mkude wanted to sit near Ngoto during the examinations? My dear students, you have heard the story, and I hope you have the answer for this. Why do you think Mkude wanted to sit near Ngoto during the examinations? Question number 2. What are the major criteria for one to be allowed to campaign for the position of the head girl and head boy? What was the major criteria for one to be allowed to campaign for the position of the head girl and head boy? Question number 3. Was Ngoto intelligent academically? Question number 3. Was Ngoto intelligent academically? Or did you hear from the story? Hope you can flashback. You can recall the memory from the short-term memory or the long-term memory. You can be able to discover the answer for this question. You have it because you have heard the story. Question number 4. Who was elected at the school head boy? Who was elected as the school head boy? Good. My dear students and other viewers, I think you have seen the questions in activity 2. And when you talk about comprehension, we need to comprehend. To comprehend means understand. Comprehend. You have to understand what is read, and you have to be able to answer the questions from the comprehension. And these are the questions. So it means if you can be able to answer these questions correctly, then that implies you understood the passage which was read by your teacher. You understood the passage that I read right here. And this goes with good listeners. If you're a poor listener, my dear student and other viewers, you cannot be able to answer the questions, the comprehension questions, because it has to do with listening skill, listening carefully. And that was one of the skills we discussed in the previous lesson, how to listen, okay? Not hearing. For those who are hearing, they cannot stay in their position to answer these questions. But for the good listeners, they can answer the questions correctly. Now, my dear students and other viewers, have you already completed doing this activity? Do you have concept about the question? Can you answer all the questions correctly? Good. I can hear some of you say yes, we can answer them correctly because we heard the story. And these are the expected answers. Should I show you? Good. Let me show you. Question number 1. The first question, the answer is Mkude sat next to Ngoto in order to help him pass the examination and pull down Makwaragurire. Question number 2. This is the answer. The candidate contesting for head boy and headgear positions had to be measured in their school performance. That is, they should have better results. That was one of the criteria that was used by the head of school, that a good performer is the one who can be given a chance to contest for the head boy and headgear positions. It means the poor performers had no chance to contest during this election. You heard it when I was reading the passage. For question number 3, I think it was Ngoto academically intelligent? The answer is no. Ngoto was not intelligent academically, but had all the qualities of a good leader. You know, you can sometimes you cannot be very intelligent, but you have the qualities of being a good leader. We have such kind of people in our schools. They are dull. They are not really very intelligent, but they have certain, qualities of leadership, and they can deserve regardless of their poor performance in studies. And for question number 4, who do you think was elected during the election? Who was elected? It's obvious that Makwaragurire is the one who was elected the head boy, because even his opponent admitted that Makwaragurire deserves to be elected as the head boy. So we hope that Makwaragurire is the one who was elected the head boy at school. So, my dear students and other viewers, I think you have enjoyed this part of the lesson concerning with talking about events. Talking about events. We have gone through different types of events, and you have already seen on how you can answer questions resulting from the comprehension that we read. You remember the first event? My dear students, do you remember the first event? It was talking about what? Talking about the graduation ceremony. The second event, can you remember the second event? Good. It was talking about accident or accidents. The third event, my dear students and other viewers? Good. It was about talking about elections. So those are the three events which have gone through, and we have seen how the questions can be constructed resulting from the comprehension that we have so far read. And therefore, I'm sure that from today on, you'll be able to listen very carefully and answer the questions accordingly. That is, you can be able to listen because you've read about listening skill, so you can stay in a position to listen and understand what is being said or what is being spoken or what is being read. You can listen carefully, understand, and respond to questions. That is part of your study in your class. You have read varieties of compositions. The teachers have read for you varieties of comprehensions. I hope you have enjoyed the lesson and you stand in a position to answer the comprehension questions correctly in your class. This marks the end of our lesson today, my dear students and other viewers. Thank you very much for attentive listening, and may I say all the best. Have a nice day. Get in touch. Thank you.
NLab Innovation Academy inatangaza nafasi za masomo ya Information Technology kwa ngazi ya certificate na diploma kwa wanafunzi waliomaliza kidato cha 4, kidato cha 6 na chuo NTA Level 3. Chuo kipo Kinondoni Vijana jijini Dar es Salaam. Zaidi ya kusoma, mwanafunzi anapewa nafasi ya kuanzisha mradi wa kiteknolojia pamoja na kupatiwa mentor wa kumuongoza. Pia tunamsaidia mwanafunzi kutafuta scholarships pale anapohitimu. Tupigie leo 0677 071 486 au 0744 100 231 au tembelea tovuti yetu www.nia.ac.tz.